Right.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Here we go. We are getting started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our first XBert Unpacked Ask Us Anything session. Woo! Look at all the people coming in. This is amazing. So it is so lovely for you to be joining us today. I am Tegan from XBert, and I'm going to be facilitating our session. And I am joined by some pretty incredible people who I will very quickly introduce in alphabetical order. And then we're going to get cracking because we don't have a lot of time for our lunchtime learning. So in alphabetical order, as I said, because I couldn't decide who to put first because they're all so amazing. We have Andrew Wheeler, aka Wheels, who is our senior developer, absolute legend. I could listen to this guy and all the incredible things he's done all day. So he's going to share some amazing insight and knowledge with us. Then we have Cass Scott, who is one of the top 50 women in accounting. She's an industry leader, highly respected, and of course, our expert practice consultant. Then we have Soraya Brown, who is our head of customer success. If you are currently an expert user, you would already know her genius and how amazing she is. She is the one that gets everyone set up and rocking on XBert, along with Steve Ayres, who is our chief data scientist, probably another name that you recognize if you have done our fast track program or have worked with us for a little while. Another incredibly clever and amazing brain. So thank you all for jumping on and being our first XBert Unpacked panelist. Now I'll explain how the session will run. First up, Steve is having some camera issues, so you don't actually get to see his face. I reckon he's maybe doing it on purpose. No,
I'm here, everyone.
but he is there. So, okay, so this session is supposed to be interactive, formal. We are going to roll with it, and we are going to allow people to just contribute. And I'm just trying to make sure that I've got all of the chat on for everyone. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, great. So we just want to have fun with this. We want this session to evolve. So please, after today, there is a survey. Give us feedback on how you felt this went. We want this to be really, really a valuable use of your time. So yeah, designing this is happening in collaboration with you. Now, so we've got some set questions that we've had come through. We're going to ask those, but the idea is, as we're going, if you have questions that you would like to add, please chuck them in the chat or chuck them in the Q&A, and our panelists will be answering them either live or by typing back to you, okay? We've also got the Q&A set that you can upvote other people's answers. If you think, yes, I want to know that too, you can also comment on them or add to them as well. So please do that, engage. We're aiming to go from 12:30 until 1 today, just so it's nice and quick and sweet. You can jump off at any point in time after you've had your question answered or you've learned enough. We will actually stay on if we need to for up to an hour to make sure we get through as many questions as possible. But as I said, go whenever you need to. And when we send out the recording, we'll timestamp it all so that you can find the answers that you need. All righty. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, let's see who is who on here while we start asking our first question. So the first question is actually us asking you. Tell me, are you currently using XBert? Not yet, or you just started and you're in trial? I'll leave that running for a little bit. Would love to know. So please do participate if you haven't already. All righty. So let's get cracking. Today, we are discussing our XBerts, our AI audits and alerts. So we're going to go right back to basics. And this is actually one of the first questions I ever had when I started with XBert. So I'm sure you have probably thought the same thing. So what are XBerts? What are they? What is this? And we're going to go to Wheels first because he's the one that designs them all. So he's going to get us started on that. Go for it, Wheels.
Cheers. Thanks, Tegan. So what are XBerts? XBerts, what it stands for, XBert Business Alerts. And what we do is, we do multiple ways of generating XBerts. Some of them we use AI tools, some we use machine learning algorithms, And others, we just can simply look at the data and go, hey, we can see things that are problematic. So what they are is they are a bit of an overview of things that aren't looking good or aren't looking correct in your books. Okay, so if you take a good business that's got 16 employees and does weekly payrolls, there's a fair amount of transactions going to go through in a business of that size, with bills, expenses, invoices, bank transactions, quotes, purchase orders, you name it. There's a volume of data that goes through. So there's really no way that anyone could physically look at every transaction and determine that it is perfectly correct. So what experts do is they scan regularly. We do multiple scans per day, and just look for things that look out of the ordinary and don't look right, or that stand out as problems, and i.e. but good ones are things like GST ones, where GST is incorrectly allocated on a bill. One of the good ones is, for example, a lot of charities or a lot of people might be saying, hey, would you like to donate? And they're not actually registered for GST. So there's all sorts of different things that we look for, and basically the experts are there just to show you potential issues, problems, and things that can be fixed. I don't know if that's a nice little summary.
Amazing. You are a legend. Would any of our Cass, I can see you've got your mic on there. Do you want to talk us some more? Thanks,
Wills, that's an excellent breakdown of what it is from a technical perspective, but from a bookkeeping practice perspective, for me, the experts and the analytics are what protects our bums and what protects our clients' bums from, compliance reviews. So they're really, really heavily focused on the things that we as bookkeepers need to look at on a daily and a, quarterly or monthly basis for and on behalf of our clients. And it surfaces stuff that may be in error or in conflict or wrong in a client's file that generally we couldn't see just on our own or without a huge amount of time and effort in actually delving really, really deeply into that data. So the cool thing about it is that it's a tech solution to a very simple problem, which is making sure we can see everything that is going on in a client's file and really easily jump into the impacted transaction or transactions and resolve it often in a very quickly and often in a very automated way. So yeah, we love the experts.
Amazing. And speaking of expert love, tell us, if you would like to, amazing panel, what is the coolest thing you have ever seen an expert find?
Look, cool is relative, isn't it? It's all nerd stuff for us. So probably the coolest one that I think I've seen come out has to be the ABN expert. ABN, no ABN recorded in your accounting file. Is this the correct ABN? And would you now like to update your accounting data with the correct ABN? To have that happen in such a seamless way has been a significant value add to us. And for all the bookies on the call, one of our biggest challenges has always been surfacing the ABN on the tax invoice and surfacing the ABN on the ABR and making sure what's on the ABR matches what's on the tax invoice. And it could take you, easily 5 to 10 minutes sometimes per tax invoice to really check that and follow it through. This happens instantly in Expert, and the resolution of it is literally the click of a button. So for me, cool, nerdy, I don't know what you want to call it, but that's my favorite one out of all of them. There was another one that popped up a little while ago that I thought was really cute, and it was that my Zero file hadn't had some love for a while. So I think it was after the Christmas New Year break, and we jumped in and had a look at a number of our clients, and Expert was a bit sad that we hadn't given it some love. So that was a really cute one. So thanks, Wills, for whoever was the genius behind that one too.
I do love them when they get a little bit funny. I love those ones. They're the best. Wheels, do you want to tell us what your favorite expert is, or the coolest thing you've come across, or most impressive?
I actually think the one that was released just recently, the bank account one, that only from the angle of the AI that's been run in the background to determine and do a deep dive into the documents to actually see if there's differences between what's on the contact account registers and the and on the bill itself. And that one, I was actually surprised quite how many actually got raised. And I've got a comment later on, but we've got a much deeper dive going in on that one coming soon. So, but yeah, I think that was probably my favourite one at the minute. Yeah, I love them all. Awesome. I love them all because I wrote not so many.
They're your baby, yes. I love it.
I was going to say, yeah, like trying to choose your favourite child, really, isn't it?
Oh, it's not very fair, Soraya. What about you? And thank you, everyone who's commenting their favourites in there as well in the chat. Please do keep.
The birthday one is a really good one for juniors as well. So that's a very handy one. Tegan, I need to just pop out very, very quickly. So keep the conversation going, kids.
No worries. Thank you, Cass. She's just got one little thing she has to do very quickly, and she will be right back. We did anticipate that happening. Soraya, would you like to tell us your coolest XBert experience?
Yeah, I guess like I agree with Cass on making sure all the ABNs are in there because they're so easy to resolve. It's like when people get on board with us, they can just go and clean up all their file like so seamlessly. Anything with the auto resolve ability is just amazing because it shows how much time saving there is there. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. And that junior birthday one that Kath raised in the chat.
Love it. Awesome. And how about you, Steve? You wanna give us some XBert love?
Well, I wish I had my video because I've got an XBert love shirt on even, just especially for this, but fortunately wasn't to be. Duplicate bill would be one of the ones I tend to talk with clients about first up, because that can be money on the table and that makes it cool. If you get money back for your client, they're pretty happy.
Yes, that is a wonderful one as well. That comes up a lot. Okay, great. So we're going to keep moving now. And again, thank you to everyone who is commenting their favorite ones in the chat. And I am seeing the questions come up around XPM and CRM systems and all of that. So as we go, we'll feed those in at the same time. Same with the Q&A around the client portal as well. So we'll come to those as we go along. So please do keep asking. We are monitoring them and we'll slip them in the correct little bits where they belong. So next up is, all right, Wheels has kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to combine the next two questions and maybe Soraya, you might want to lead us off on this one. How do the experts work in XBert? How do they integrate, and how can people use them or customize them to make the most out of each of them?
Yeah, I guess Will's touched that we're syncing with the file multiple times a day to find potential issues. When they're found, they then get pulled to your workboard, and then you can run through them and start to resolve or use the auto resolve features to go through that as well. So there's, I mean, as Will said, multiple things that we pick up on to make a decision through there. As we keep scanning, if you're already in the file anyway, we're going to automatically move it to your completed folder to let you know that the issue has been resolved, regardless if you were to fix up anything within XBert. The next point, I guess, is customizing the experts. The whole purpose of having the experts there is to streamline your workflow. So you're making sure that you're picking up on the things that are relevant to you or saving time so that you can focus on other areas and then be alerted to the issues that are present on your file. But there's obviously different things that you're doing as bookkeepers and things that you might find important. And we try to make sure that you can customize the alerts so that what is being raised on your workboard is the most relevant to you within the practice. So you can actually go in and customize these within the automation tab. And that might be getting them to be, raised above a certain value and completed under a certain value, so you don't have to be alerted of those things. There's so many different things that you can choose and to customize on them as well. But that then helps you streamline and make sure you're being alerted to the things that are important to you.
Love it, love it. And now, Steve, I see that you're replying in the chat as well. Did you want to add to anything around how to use use the experts, how they work, how to customize them?
I suppose I'd just add that you know, you can be very, very specific with how you customize whether they appear on your workboard or not, how they get assigned, and you can do that per client as well. So you can get quite specific in how you kind of route all the work to the right people or other destinations. So that's quite important.
Awesome. And you want to touch on just about the questions around how to tell when a last sync happened that you've just answered a little bit in the chat there. Did you want to expand on that?
Yeah, so obviously, as others have said, there's a sync happening multiple times a day. When we say sync, we mean XBert getting the latest data out of your accounting packages, which are via QuickBooks and Xero. And, you know, there'll be different sync times each day, depending on you know, what's sort of being processed at any one time. And some reports will actually tell you exactly what that sync is. The banking summary metrics report is one of those, and you can go in there. The reason it's on the banking is because there's also a need to sort of sync up, if you will, when the bank feeds are coming through. So there can be a few sort of different moving parts as to when the most recent data hits XBert and is analysed in terms of finding potential data quality issues.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you. Now, before we move on, Soraya, Wills, Cass, did any of you want to add or contribute further around just that automation, how they can be customised and how they work before we move on to how they integrate with the workflow and analytics? Do you want to add anything else?
Yeah, look, probably my only comment is sort of every client is actually very different in what we do and how we work with them. And, it, you know, if it's a client that you're perhaps more hands-on with on a day-to-day basis, you might actually intuitively anyway know what's going on. So if there's experts that sort of keep popping up and they're just like, yep, I don't need that, I don't need that, turn them off for that client. Get rid of the white noise. But then for another client, and particularly a client that may be doing all of their own data entry, may have multiple people in their practices or businesses doing the data entry, it allows you to be a lot more granular in what you want to focus on. So you mightn't be interested in the alerts around sales invoices being paid on time, for instance, but you're going to be heavily focused on the alerts around the GST and duplicate invoices and, you know, employees if they've got a large turnover of employees. So you can get really, really granular. Start with them all on, and then on a client by client basis, just start to work through and refine as you keep going. I wouldn't recommend turning, you know, a lot of them off. Keep at least one client with them all coming through, because that way you'll actually know what else is coming through as well. And they may release just this magic expert that you know, you just want to roll out to everyone. The other thing I would like to quickly flag, if I can, Tegan, and I'm actually in an XBert file at the moment, and I've just been told there's been new releases and to update, and that's happened since we've been on this call. So can I really encourage anybody that is using it to always keep an eye out on the change log? And I'm actually just dropping the URL for that into the webinar chat because there's a whole heap of awesome improvements and bug fixes that have just been rolled out, and I haven't had a chance to read them yet, but keep an eye out because this is where the new stuff happens.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much. And Soraya, you had your microphone on a second ago. Did you want to add a little bit more before? We've got some mind readers in the chat, I feel. Simone and Ian, you've actually asked two of the questions that we're coming to just next. I just wanted to acknowledge that. But Soraya.
Yeah, I guess like Cass did cover most of what I was going to say, but I saw Simone's question just about how to kind of customize the alerts. And obviously you can customize them across your whole practice, but as well as configuring them for individual clients, like Cass was saying. So when you do go to that automation page, you just can set that set of conditions that you want and then an action in there as well. But obviously happy to talk to Simone about how she can actually customize them. But yeah, that's all I was going to add.
And so what I might just get you to do, if you want to just get it ready, do you want to share your screen and just do a live example of that in a second? And Steve, I might just get you to answer for us the question that Ian asked around, he's saying on his trial dashboard, it shows that there's 460,000 risks for a client and another with over 2 million. What does that really mean? Do you want to talk to him about that while Soraya gets ready to do a little example, and just, possibly even including our bulk complete and stuff like that can help people.
Yeah, sure. So I suppose the client page, client screen in XBert displays a bit of a summary as to what XBert has found in terms of the number of experts and the value of those. We often talk about that value as like a risk value. It's not necessarily money that, you know, a client is going to lose or has gone off the table or, you know, never to be seen again type thing. It's more around the amount of money that's involved with the items, the experts that XBert has actually found. So an example might be that, you know, there's an expert raising the fact that there's, you know, 35,000 worth of unreconciled transactions for last month. So there's $35,000 sort of involved with that. It's, you know, it's not risky if it's attended to, and, you know, but it could be risky in that there's $35,000. It's not going towards something on the, you know, the P&L, or how it gets reconciled might mean there's a GST or isn't a GST implication to worry about. So it's risky, but it's not sort of, you know, money being lost. So that's sort of the first point to make. Sometimes it can be quite specific in that, you know, the GST or ABN related issues that Cassandra was talking about before. You know, sometimes it'll be the GST amount in question that will be counted as a risk value. So that could be a little bit closer to money that might be about to disappear if it's paid to the tax office when it shouldn't have been. And similarly, you know, when we spoke about duplicate bills, you know, if you've got $2,000 bills and they've both been paid, then that is money that's kind of at risk. So there's sort of varying levels to it. And it's, I guess the best way to think of it is the money involved with the data quality issues that XBert has found. And sorry, Tegan, what was the second part of the question? It was around batching.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, it was just around, but Soraya can probably address that in what she's going to do an example on now. Is just around how to bulk complete and move through that. If someone's in trial, that's often one that comes up. But Soraya, I will hand over to you if you want to share your screen as well and do that example. And if you would like to as well, feel free to answer the question from Anita around the client portal as you are going up.
Cool. Perfect. So right now I'm just currently in, and I'm just going to move some Zoom icons around. Currently in automation and XBert Automation. And if you're curious about everything that we're checking across the file, this is a really good way to just run through the list and have a read through. You can kind of preview everything in here. But when you're running through this, this is where you can come in and customize everything. And like I was saying before, it is, you know, you can configure across your whole practice, a whole client, and then you can also set some rules. So these are the kind of two differences in here. If we go and look at some rules that have been set for this specific alert in here, we can see that, you know, we've set a rule up for this one. Here we've got, you know, send $500 to the manager, over $500. You can select which client that's relevant for. So you add a condition in here. So the total amount is greater than $500, and then you set an action of what you want that to do. And that might be to mark it as completed. So you might say anything, the total amount that is less than $500, I don't want to see, and I want to mark it as completed, and therefore will move off the workboard. So just making sure that you're setting a condition and an action to all of those things in there. Then I guess the configuration in here can be really important if you want certain team members to look after certain alerts, and also your processes, which I'm sure Tegan will touch on kind of how the experts go into the workflow. But hopefully, as you all know, your process list is completely customizable to be in the language that you want. And if you think about experts, they are additional tasks that we're finding for you, and you can therefore map it into the process that you want to find it on the workboard, so that hopefully it sits alongside one of your other tasks, potentially your BAS process or your payroll in there. Maybe Cass, you have some stuff to add in there?
Yeah, look, particularly around those that are integrating Practice Manager with Expert now too, the link between your processes and your task list in Practice Manager is quite critical. And I think, Cassie, that may be part of the challenge that you've got there. So I think Aaron will jump in and have a look, or Troy will jump in and have a look. But making sure your processes are mapped to the tasks in Practice Manager will also make it easier for Expert to do the match between the task on the workboard and the job task combination back into Practice Manager. And if you need any help around that, just reach out. We're starting to put together some collateral that will support that, but that's often one of the big things that people do overlook. The other thing too is, you know, for those of you that are starting to use the integration with Practice Manager, is making a decision internally about whether you're booking the task up to the, your time up to the task, or your time up to another monthly task that you may have, or a weekly or a daily task. So if you've got a generic general bookkeeping task, you might decide that any time that you spent in resolving any of the experts that do pop up is better booked to that one main task, or you can still book and book time to each expert independently. We generally find that where we're doing a bulk update of experts, we just book to a general task that we've got, a general scheduled task coming through. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Amazing. And I'd just like to out two people in the chat. Hi, Aaron. Hi, Troy. You guys are getting the full star treatment today, everyone who's on our first Ask Us Anything. We've got both of our founders in and answering you in the chat. So hi, guys. Hope you didn't think that you could just sneak on in there. We saw you, but thank you for being here. Amazing. All right. So before we move on to, now we are almost at the end of our quick half-an-hour lunchtime learning session. So we do completely understand if you need to head off and get back to your day. When we send this out, as I said, they will be time-stamped, so you'll be able to find answers to any questions that you may still want to know if you can't stay with us. But we will keep going for another half an hour, so please do feel free to stay with us. We're about to go into analytics in a moment. And yeah, just play along for as long as you would like to stay with us. So before we do move into how the experts interrelate with the analytics, around the processes and our automation, we have touched on a lot of that. Did anyone want to talk to some best practice around, rather than creating your new processes from scratch and having to remap the experts, just some pro hacks on how to get the most out of using those experts into your workflows? Soraya, did you want to start us off on that one?
Yeah, I guess hopefully our processes already have been mapped a little bit in there for you. But look, common things I see, and I'm sure Cass has worked through this, is that breakdown of those service offerings and tasks that you are doing for your clients. And then you've got, you know, your general bookkeeping, sales, sometimes obviously your BAS agent services, which is one I usually create that isn't sometimes in the trial. But you can create all of them in your settings in here, and your process list in there as well. Cass, did you have any specific ones you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, the process is really interesting, and particularly when we're, microphone's on, sorry. Yeah, particularly when we're correlating it back to the task list that we do have in Practice Manager. We've had a couple of sessions already that have talked about the integration between Practice Manager and Expert, and the correlation between the task lists and then the processes in Expert. So I think next session, Tegan, we're running is going to be more around the workflows and the Practice Manager. So it might be worth jumping on that Ask Me Anything, or booking in a demo call to talk about that in more depth, so that we can keep this one focused on the analytics. But yeah, it does come back to process being mapped to the correct task in Practice Manager. The key thing to think about too is in Expert, you can have more than one process mapped to a single task in Practice Manager. So you don't have to have one-to-one. It can be one task in Practice Manager to many processes so that they can be aggregated from a time level as well.
Yeah, thanks, Cass. And as you just said, we have two options around our workflow and our automation and how we can deep dive into that. So if it's from an XPM perspective, on the 16th of this month, we actually have our first masterclass and more of a deep dive into XPM and XBert and the integration. That is for people who have some experience or who have at least begun setting up XPM. So there's that extended session that is specifically for that. And then our next Ask Us Anything session in a fortnight is looking at how you can completely make the most out of that automation and the workflow that we have. So we are sticking to the experts, and we're going to move on to analytics. But because we have reached the end of our time, I am just going to do one more poll just really quickly, because I can see in the chat that people are asking questions about connecting and getting help and demos and things like that. So I'm going to launch our last poll here, and it's just for you to let us know if you want us to make contact with you, either for a demo or one-on-one demo to get started, or we haven't actually spoken about our fast track program, but what that is, it's where we help you get set up, and you'll be working with Soraya and Steve, both of who are on here today. And Soraya has touched on a little bit about how she helps to assist you in setting that up so that you're using XBert specifically customized to your practice, your clients, and the way that you work. Now, usually that is $2,000 to have that, because it is a significant investment of not just Soraya and Steve's time, but also your time as well. When we're not just doing that for you, you have to partner with us to do that. But up until the 30th of June, we actually have a massive discount, and it's only $500 to work with our team to get set up. Plus, you also get 3 months 50% off your subscription. So it is well worth it, covers the costs, and I do highly recommend it if you want to make the most out of XBert. So if you would like us to make contact with you for either of those things, if it is for another reason and you just want some help, when you pop off this session, a survey does come up as you leave. Just take a moment to fill in the question and just let us know what you need help with, and we'll be in contact to help you with that. So on that note, please stick with us if you would like to learn more about how the experts and analytics play into each other, or head off when you have to and you'll get a copy of the recording. So Steve, do you want to take it from here? Soraya, I'll get you to stop sharing your screen if you wouldn't mind. And then Steve, do you want to talk us through how do our experts actually integrate with our analytics, and how does that work? We as a team got some amazing feedback that Aaron shared this morning around how using XBert saves someone a significant loss to their business in misquoting a client. So do you want to talk us through experts and analytics, Steve?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose just to keep the terms in everyone's mind, analytics in XBert is actually what we call, or it sort of covers our reporting. We call it analytics because there's a bit more to it than perhaps what you're used to seeing as a standard report out of one of the accounting packages. So we bring together in analytics obviously the metrics and the understanding of all the data quality issues, as well as workflow and tasks as well. And that'll probably be another session, I suspect. But bring that together along with the accounting data that we get out of Xero Mind and QuickBooks as well, and really consolidate that into a package for your practice that can help you make business decisions. So if you go from looking at an individual expert that's telling you there's a GST issue with one potential particular supplier on a particular bill or line item on a bill, you can think of analytics as being able to drill into that detail, but also being able to see exactly what's going on across your practice, what the trends are, where you might be operating perhaps in a way that's causing some of these issues to happen. Like some standard processes might be baking in the fact that things around GST are getting missed. So it really gives you that opportunity to sort of look at the macro level, and of course then drill down into more of the detail as well. So there's endless possibilities in terms of how you'd like to use those analytics. And Tegan mentioned one which was around pricing clients and perhaps renewing their fees at a fixed rate that's going to be profitable for you and very understandable and accepted by your clients. So if you can support your fees with data, it's often a much easier and simpler conversation that you have with your clients. It's more accurate, and everyone tends to win. So look, that's a really positive thing. As I mentioned too, you might be using analytics to sort of identify where you need to change things, where there might be efficiencies, or even things just plainly going wrong in how you do the books for your clients. So understanding that is also very, very important. And I should sort of say that understanding the sort of fee structure for a client, particularly important for those ones that come on board and you're in that process of quoting and you're wondering what you're taking on board. And previously it's a big slog through the Xero file or something to try and work out what state are they in. Now, if you can have some analytics pop up that just shows you that straight away, and I've got a little example I'll show you in a sec, that just lays that all out for you, and it's something you can share with your client, then you're already miles ahead in terms of the time savings, and you look more professional as well. So I'll just share my screen very quickly.
While you're sharing your screen up, Steve, one of the comments I'd like to make around the analytics and for the practice owners out there, we actually charge for an analytics service for our clients. So when we bring a new client on board, or if we're talking about bringing a new client on board, we actually put the analytics review into a service offering. So we say to the clients, look, love to work with you. One of the first things we like to do is a review of your file. We use this fabulous tool to do it, and we charge you X number of dollars to do that and provide you with some feedback. We then use that to form part of the conversation we have with the client about what are we going to do moving forward in terms of remediation work and what that remediation is actually going to cost. But it also gives us greater clarity around the volume and the intensity, I guess, for want of a better word, in the file, which helps us then start to position our fixed fee offering for the routine bookkeeping services. So don't think that you just have to do the analytics and actually not charge any value back to the clients. It is a service that clients are actually really quite keen to see. We've just done it over about 6 different entities, and it's provided some really, really great insights for a third party that's working with a particular set of clients to know actually how good or how bad things are behind the hood. So yeah, don't discount that at all.
Yeah, thanks, and great points there, Cass. So hopefully everyone can see my screen. Tegan, sing out if that's not happening, but it should be the health, what we call the health check report showing at the moment. This is for a single client. This is not across your practice. This is just for one client, perhaps the one that you're quoting for or onboarding. And what you're looking at is a summary across a pretty vast sort of section of data, everything from the accounting system in terms of payables, receivables, bank accounts, whether there's attachments or not on spend, combined with a summary of the data quality in terms of the number of issues found and what their value is, and we've got this data quality score, which we would sort of be targeting 85% plus as a minimum, and obviously this one's quite a bit lower at 62. And again, this is something you can share with your clients. And you move on from the summary and you look at the breakdown of where the data quality score is coming from, what's being checked for, how many things are getting found in each, and then breaking down the activity as well, where are the transactions coming from in terms of the area, how many pay runs and so forth, and then another breakdown on the banking as well, cash coming in and out. So it just sort of gives that good summary to have that conversation with the client, and you get this report by simply just adding them, integrating them with XBert, and then this report will be available, to use with your client that day. And it's very quick and easy to get to such a sort of comprehensive view, and so we emphasise the complexity and the potential issues that you might be taking on board with your new client.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Steve. Well, we will start wrapping up shortly. Team, I've spotted 2 more questions for us to address from the chat around pricing and some of our latest updates. So we'll circle back around to those ones, but have any of you seen anything else higher up or anything that we've missed that you would like to address before we answer those last 2 questions? Are we all good? Amazing. All right. Well, in that case, Soraya, would you like to just give us a quick, there's been a few pricing conversations or questions in there, just asking about how does the pricing work? How do they know? And it'd be really great if you could let people know about the best option for them, especially when they're in trial, of loading all of their client files in straight up as soon as possible to get the most out of their trial period.
Yeah, so all the files that are loaded, we do a scan of them and then an average of what we call activities, and that's what we put onto a 6-tiered pricing system. So you can find out what each of your client files land on. If you load them up in the trial, there's a whole quote within the app, and that'll let you know all of that as well. Yeah. Hopefully that clarifies, but if anyone wants to talk specifically about it, happy to do that as well.
Amazing. Thank you. I do love our value-based pricing, and it is all based on the amount of work that the audits and the alerts and what's happening in your file. So I think it's very, it's very fairly based, and it's one of the interesting conversations that I had a lot when I was out at events, at people being just really surprised at how much value for money it actually was compared to some of the things that are out and about at the moment. So I'm very proud of how well we do our pricing and look after everyone. Now, Wheels, this one's for you. Can you please tell us a little bit about just some of our latest updates, just the last few, what they mean for us and what is in the pipeline, what is coming up?
Thanks. Yeah. So what we've got, sorry, just a couple of comments as well. I saw floating through. Someone made a mention that they love the auto resolve. That was a big piece that we got in a while ago now. There's a lot more that we want to do with auto resolve. It's actually quite complex under the covers because we're handling 3 different systems. Each of those 3 systems handle tax differently, things like that. So it's actually not as simple as it looks for some things, but we keep trying to find more and keep adding more auto resolve items as we go. What have we got coming up? One of the ones, the few of them that we're working on, one of them is a large transaction that's amortized over time. So this is where maybe you've got something where you get the bill and you put it through to your and I might need Cass to give me the actual words. It goes into one of your accrual accounts, and then you start paying it on a monthly basis, or you amortize that payment out over 12 months. That is sitting on top of the journals, and basically what we're working on is finding the implied schedule of payments so that we can determine that this is actually an amortized amount, and that you're missing them, or that you paid the wrong amount, or you've done it twice, or whatever it might be. So that's one that we're working on. We're doing a lot with name entity recognition, and what I mean by that is looking at mainly documents and trying to find bits and details out of those documents so that we can validate that against the data in the source file or in your accounting file. I talked about bank accounts. We're already doing that with bank accounts and looking at that. But what we want to do, and what we're doing now, is we're building knowledge on all your documents. So we're actually running this entity recognition tool over all of the documents to see if there's a trend. So for example, we might raise the alert to go, hey, a bank account is different on this particular client file, and this contact, but they actually have quite a lot of different bank accounts. So it may not necessarily be a problem, because if we look and go, hey, this contact has multiple sets of bank accounts over the last 3 to 4 months, it might just be because you've got them linked into a single contact, but you're actually paying different ABN based or different contact records. So we're trying to work out just exactly what's going on with the bank account data. So we've got that. We're also looking at addresses and trying to extract the address details of the supplier. This again just allows you to maybe make your books more complete, and also for things like TPAR reporting. In Australia, we have this TPAR report where you need to have email and addresses, etc. So we're trying to get that out as well. Again, building a bit of knowledge on the documents to go, here's the address. It's a fairly consistent address that was seen on this supplier. You haven't got the address in your source file, so maybe an auto resolve will come up and you'll be able to update your contact records. Another one we're doing, again, it's with duplicate bills. Duplicate bills are done on a set of conditions, but if one of those conditions is the date of the bill. If someone enters a bill and decides to put a different date on it, but uses the same attachment, what might happen is you paid the bill twice on the same attachment. So what we're doing is we're having a look and seeing if that's happening as well. So rather than just using the actual data values from the file, we're actually starting to look at some of the, if you call it the unstructured, the attachment data that's in there as well, to see if you've created a duplicate bill. The difficulty with that is that often people will put a bill in that's got 7 different line items, and then they'll create a bill for each line item and pay each line item of the bill separately. So of course, then if I raise that, everyone's going to go, well, hey, that's not really a duplicate, so we're just working through the scenarios on that one, but that one is actually not far away. So that one's getting pretty close to being out there. And another one that's been sitting there and we just haven't got back to finishing it up is contractors paid as employees. This can have implications, especially around sole traders. If you are using contractors or a sole trader particularly, you could be up for on costs and superannuation expense as well. So we're just working through those, looking at the, again, it's looking at an implied schedule. There's no point me saying, hey, you've got a contractor here and you've paid them 3 times, and it looks like it. I'd need to sort of go, well, it's been a bit longer than 3 months. And yes, it looks like you're paying them regularly on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, etc. So just some of the things that we're doing. We've got all of these sort of plates out there spinning, and they're the ones that are probably out there that are the closest to getting complete.
Amazing. How lucky are we to have incredible people like Wheels and Steve and Troy and Aaron, who are still there as well, and our whole team working for this industry to just create so much peace of mind and support and help, just to really, it's a game changer, this is. And so to wrap up, I've got a question for all of you. Now, Cass, you'll probably be the one to answer this on behalf of everyone, but if you're still playing along in the chat, thank you for asking us so many questions. But tell us, if you didn't have something like XBert with these alerts, doing these checks and having your back, how much work do you think it would take you? How long do you think it would do for a human or a person for you to do the checks that XBert is doing for you? Let us know how long. That's the first question. And the second one is, how many of these checks would you actually do? What's realistic? What can you achieve in your business? How much of the data, how many of the transactions, what are you actually physically able to check currently if you weren't using XBert versus what this is creating for you. So Cass, do you want to, while people are telling us what they can get through, I'd love to hear your perspective pre-XBert to now.
Yeah, we've got a couple of particularly large clients that do their own internal bookkeeping, and every quarter there, you know, for one of them, certainly their BAS review can be about 5,000 lines worth of data, which is pretty significant. And as a human, I start looking at it and I start getting the dozies, so I'm falling asleep. It's not productive time because it's not productive time. Doesn't matter which way you look at it, it's not productive. You're often finding very small amounts, which when you look at the time it does take you to do, may not have a cost benefit to it. But as bookkeepers, we're all incredibly anal about finding everything. So we discovered it saved us about 30 to 40% of our review time on particularly these larger files. But on top of that 30 to 40%, what it actually did is it found stuff that we were never ever looking for or would never have been able to find. And that was things like duplicate payments. Like in a 5,000 line BAS file, you're not going to find duplicate payments, particularly if the original payment was made 2 quarters ago. And so it's not just the time we save, it's the depth that it goes in bringing this data. And the cool thing too is then about updating the data, and I go back to the GST and the ABN ones as being one of my favorites. That's done, the future reviews will just chug away. It's not going to come up as an exception, so you can start to focus on the next thing. So it takes care of the things once you fix them, and it's fixed moving forward. So there's time savings in a number of different areas, but it's also the depth of information that we would just never ever find.
Amazing. Thank you for explaining it like that. And hello to Simone, and I saw Nicole in the chat as well, 2 amazing XBert Pro users. And I love what you've said, Simone, that XBert was your first employee, because we've actually done some stats around that, and it is the equivalent of having a part-time employee doing those manual checks for you that, as Cass said, are either not viable to do or just impossible to get through. So wonderful. Well, thank you very much, every single person, for your time today and for joining us for this first session. I hope you found it really valuable. I hope we answered your questions. We will review them and make sure that we have captured everything, and we will be sharing this recording and the answers with you ASAP as soon as we review them and edit them to make it easy for you to get the most out of it. We'll be doing this again in a fortnight, and we will be moving on to our automation and our workflow. So start thinking about those questions and what you would like to know about that. Please do feel free to register for any of our upcoming webinars. We do have our XPM one coming up next. We've also got Discover XBert for bookkeepers, for those who are new or want a bit of a refresher. What else do I have to tell you? If you've let us know that you would like us to be in contact, we absolutely will. If you didn't get a chance to do that, pop it in the survey at the end, or just reply to the email that I will send out to you when we have that all ready. Cass has mentioned getting involved in Canny and having a look at what's coming. So please do feel free to let us know what experts you do want to see, upvote the ones that we're working on that you would like to see done quicker. And of course, join our Facebook group as well. Our discussion group is an amazing community, and it is your space to be able to ask any questions you want. Not only do we have our whole team in there, but we also have a whole bunch of XBert experts who are more than happy to share hints and tips and help you get the most out of it. So thank you again for your time. We are very, very grateful. We hope that you are getting the most out of XBert, and please do let us know how we can continue to make these sessions as valuable as possible for you. Thank you to our incredible panelists. You are amazing, and we are so lucky to have you. And thank you also to our sneaky founders for joining us in the chat as well, and being the chat monitors and answering so many more questions as well. Enjoy the rest of your Friday, and we will speak to you all again soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.